Welcome to the last course. Today, we will be sharing our teaching and international experiences. For this part, we have some videos from our partners to share with you. We'll put these videos at the end. Everyone will be able to watch them in their own time. Also, we will be sharing everything we did here in Taiwan. There are also some teaching questions or directions here for reference. When we discuss this course, there are two main parts. What are those? Empiricism and traditionalism. Those sound a bit complicated, so let's discuss the differences. In empiricism, the course is student-centered, but in traditionalism, teaches laws.
In academic, more focus on knowledge.
That's right, it's more about theory in all the fun of the course. Some children may forget to really dive deep into the theory part. It's possible for teachers to try continually pushing the theory, but children often find it boring. The solution is to use the two types of learning together, so the children have fun while they learn. That's the reason our manuals mix knowledge, motivation, and activities. These help the children tie all the ideas together. So, what will we do later? Teacher Sloth, what have we been playing with recently?
Well, we have some assignments and competitions.
That's right, we'll have some ideas to share for assignments or competitions. That way, children will be able to use the things they learn in everyday life. Our course leans more toward empiricism, which is why the first consideration here for student-led learning leans on their personal experiences. We want children to accumulate as many learning experiences as possible. So in one set of plans, we may have 16 to 20 lessons. And in this way, the knowledge is deep, broad and linked. In terms of traditionalism, we focus on knowledge. We frequently use a specific scientific principle in each course. So when you flick through the manual in the upper right corner or at the top of the lesson plan, you'll find the scientific principle we are addressing. So, what should the teacher do when they are preparing for class? First, attention needs to be given to how students will engage with the activity. What about the variety of different topics we look at this time? Did they find it difficult? If so, then that's okay. Part of this is because to increase potential, the learners need to be pushed a little. It's not that easy. Like Teacher Sloth says, he also spent a lot of time doing these challenges. So for this, we emphasize student-led activities that develop their abilities and hope that all of you can persevere if it is hard and complete the job. Problem solving and ability to learn during doing is a part of the course. We provide various challenges for children to learn and grow. For example, the most common problem-solving skills is using open questions. Like the wind reel we made that has a 27x multiplier effect. It started as gears and developed into a wind power design. If you haven't seen the demo video, you may want to go back and check that out. We really hope that you can develop problem-solving skills from our courses. In these courses, we help children to improve their abilities by assigning a variety of topics. The last point is about student-centered learning. When we make our lesson plans and arrangements, we need to consider the ability levels of the group. I think you all been doing really well in this course. If you need it so far, give yourself a round of applause. In traditionalism, the most important thing for reflection is to include academics and formal training. For example, in the electricity course, There's a certain way of writing biases that prevents children from risks. Another example is the metal fuel cell in Learning Lab, which requires a steady ratio between the reactant and oxygen to keep the fuel cell working. This proportional adjustment is another aspect of training. It lets children gain an in-depth understanding of the science. The most important thing is to transfer knowledge correctly. For example, the information provided to children should be correct. If you do not major in this discipline or you are not familiar with it, you can find the keywords you need to learn more in our lesson plans. You can search the keywords to find the knowledge you need. But where are we today? If you're teaching in a school, then classes will learn toward traditionalism. It's important that we prepare ahead of time so we understand the material. If you're using these skills for after-class activities or talent classes, then you can prepare additional materials to bump up the fun level. The most important thing for a teacher is to understand how best to transmit the information they have. On this slide, we can divide teaching and learning into two parts. Let's look at the one on the left first. Here we can see two words, preview and review. In the course, it's difficult for children to preview first, and review depends on the children's level of interest. But if the learning is followed up with the right activities, during the preview they can assemble some simple parts from the manual. The review section is included in the games, where the children get the practice they need. Probably 2 or 3 years ago, there was a way of teaching that became popular called flipped classroom. Have you ever heard of it, Teacher's Law?
I heard something about it. How does it actually work?
Flipped classrooms aim to increase student engagement. It intentionally shifts instruction to a learner-centric model. That is, teachers in class still need to teach this model to children. I'll give a book to you later. You can go home and read it to finish the assignment and take this back into your own classrooms. Through discussion and through interaction with the teacher, students will understand the purpose of a device and how to show their results. So, the left side here is preview and review. You can look up flipped classrooms online. It is useful and integrates well into most classrooms. This is a suitable balance for classrooms, or if you are teaching extracurricular classes. Flipped learning gives the learning process to children. The children will often have projects to take home. If you are a school teacher, flipped learning is also helpful, as children will be able to preview the class at home first before they review it in school. The activities enrich the learning experience. Now, let's look at the right-hand side. We have expressions and exploration. Expression and exploration determines whether you go deeper into a topic after you have finished. Teacher's Law, have you ever thought about this? When we make remake device, what do you do once it is done?
Would you extend it in some way?
If we let children take the initiative to put forward ideas for exploration, pretty quickly you'll see that some of the WGM ideas may not work. Let's say an idea would be 90% successful. We would encourage the child to explore the missing 10%. This can be part of the teaching process. Letting the children keep exploring how to improve a device. Remember, as we mentioned before, we hope to cultivate problem-solving skills. Other than this, there is expression. When a child makes a model, it is one kind of expression. But if children don't talk about it, or there's no way to display their device, this part will be lacking. For this reason, we include some specific activities in the course that require children to express their thoughts and ideas about the design. Through discussion, children learn more about the idea they are exploring. So, if we look at the big picture, the essence of teaching is that it is learning. To address learning, we must start with the needs of the students. If you have started planning any teaching activities, please observe the group of people in front of you first. What do they need? If they prefer happy atmosphere, then bring more activities. If they want to learn more, we can draw more information from the manual. If you want to hold a teacher training course, it will take a lot of planning and preparation. Even after this training course, what is the goal of this? To promote a product? Or to deeply embrace teaching and learning? Whichever one is the priority. It can be fine-tuned according to the need. For example, in this teacher training course, one of the fundamental aspects was familiarizing people with the basic components. If you want more in-depth knowledge, you can ask for any information you need, and we'll do whatever we can to help. We can share more videos or chat about it. Next, let's take a look at Giggle Lab, the whole design of the Giggle Lab. Let's move to an actual Giggle Lab. Speaking of Giggle Lab, Teacher Sloth, do you know how many categories there are in Giggle Lab?
4.
Do you know which 4?
First is Creative Lab, then Learning Lab, then Fun Lab, and the last is the Senior Lab.
So, what are the differences between them?
Is it just the age of the users?
Does it distinguish by user age? That is partly correct, but not 100%. Not every product is differentiated by age. So again, the easiest way is to make adjustments according to our objectives. Because we just said that our teaching goal is to serve more students, so we use these guidelines to help steer children and teachers to acquire more knowledge and skills. Next, we can have a quick look at the 4 labs. First is the Creative Lab. The main target for Creative Lab is the kindergarten age group, or elementary first graders. For such young children though, what should our focus be? We aim for an enlightenment education. The first yellow arrow here says that the focus on STEAM. In all the courses, we want the children to be as independent as possible and learn the various device functions themselves. For example, in STEAM, science is the part we often talk about. In every course or chapter, there are activities where we can add scientific details. This encourages children to have fun while learning. For example, the one model we use most often is the catboot that used the lever principle. Next, for technology, in the Creative Lab, we add in Sammy the Sandwich robot. This way, children can get used to apply technology. As part of the learning process, E is for engineering, and the engineering part comes down to basic construction, fundamental engineering concepts that enable children to build something durable, purposeful, and stable, or maybe just how to extend an exciting design effectively. Next is A for art. Art is how children present their beautiful work. The last is math. Whenever we talk about mathematics, some people get curious about how math can be taught with building blocks. Teacher Sloth, do you know how that works?
Is it because children can count the blocks?
Counting block is too simple. Have you ever noticed the reason why building blocks can be used or connect together? That's because they have a fixed unit size. So regardless of whether we are using parts from Junior Engineer or the 1 centimeter block system, children will be able to count, add, and subtract by using the grids. They can also use them to measure, combine, and assemble. You can choose different blocks or calculate a specific length, width, height, and area. So, from the relatively simple course, STEAM concepts can be integrated throughout the entire curriculum. This is the Creative Lab. We hope to give children an enlightening education. Creative Lab usually needs a bit more space. We designed it based on using a whole classroom. If you are interested in learning more about the Creative Lab, you can find the details in our catalog. There's even a demo classroom layout in here. The classroom design is to accommodate many children at the same time. We believe that the most important thing for enlightenment education is to provide the best learning environment we can. If there is just one child on the table playing with building blocks all alone, it seems a bit sad. Okay, lonely may not be the best description. That is, the motivation might be less. But compare that to a classroom full of building blocks geared towards STEAM, where many other children are playing with building blocks. And you'll see that it changes the mental framework of the whole group. It is much easier to encourage children to learn while playing. Next, we have Fun Lab. The objective of Fun Lab is to boost personal creativity. Why do we say that? The Fun Lab target is from kindergarten right through to senior high school. It's mainly used in after-school activity clubs or as a single course. Why? Because of how it is packaged. With its neat and tidy little box, it becomes like taking your books or school bag with you. Children can take their creative projects with them. Have you ever had a moment where you suddenly thought of a good idea and really wanted to build it there and then? FunLab has that magical power. It allows you to carry a small toolbox with you. You can assemble your idea right away if you suddenly think of something, so it mainly aims to boost creativity. But why is it used in activity clubs? That's because it allows children to control more of their own progress and learning. If it's only used in the big class at school, it gets hard for teachers to control all the resources and boxes. Because there are usually 5 to 8 students in an activity club, we can use FunLab easily in those situations. It also makes it easier for the teacher to give good guidance. In addition, children don't need to pick or return parts, so they have more time to get creative. FunLab has as many units and themes as the Learning Lab. So if you want to teach it as an after-class activity or a one-off course, then FunLab is good for that too. Next, let's look at a Learning Lab. Learning Lab is the first course we shared. Its main goal is to learn by doing. In the teacher training videos we have been recording for you, we reduced the explanation slightly. But what did we do with the time we saved? We made more time for building and creative challenges. Even if we have a lot of lecture time, it will be for nothing if we don't balance it with practice. You may not know what will happen during the course. So we designed these activities for you to actually get experience doing it for yourself. Through hands-on practice, you were discovering problems, discovering who did which tasks better, and sharing your answers and experiences. This really helps teachers and learners. The Learning Lab scope is wider than FunLab. Because of the increased target age range, which can even extend to college. But how can it be used for such a large demographic?
Because it covers more themes.
Because we have been continuously expanding the series. Now it even includes the microbit that we talked about last time, and the newest 1206 Web AI interface. If new technology emerges, we make it a priority to add it to Learning Lab. That's why Learning Lab keeps growing. In Learning Lab, we focus on learning by doing. No matter the product, if it's suitable, we'll add it in. That way, it enriches the learning environment. If you are interested, you can add Learning Lab information in our catalog. If you look there, you'll see that we've separated it carefully into topics. There are individual packages and group sets to choose from, and each one will depend on what your target object is for the day. That finally brings us to Senior Lab. Senior Lab is the thematic teaching aid. The main target here is grandparents. It is designed to bring creativity to senior members of the community. However, in senior lab, we focus on not only grandparents but also children. We have always emphasized intergenerational communication. When left in a group, seniors tend to rely on mahjong. But with senior lab, the aim is to enhance the interaction between the children and the senior generation. In senior lab, there are one or two unique points to address. For example, there are two sets of occupational therapy, but only one for consumers. For more information, again you can check the catalog. As for the functional therapy set, the instructor will require a license, so we won't go into too much detail here. Let's take a look at planning the course. We usually follow 5 key points. The first is the expected number of students. If we have many students today and they are all kindergarten age, which system would you choose?
Creative lab.
Right, because it's a complete classroom set. In addition to their creative lab, you could also consider the learning lab. Because they're school sets, they're also. Next is date and time. When will the course be held? For example, we may use Fun Lab less during winter and summer vacations. We call that Fun Lab has many courses, but it is suitable for learning large amounts in short periods. Particularly, if time is tight, then Fun Lab is a good solution. The models are fairly simple, and one of the goals is to make a complete model in one session and then play games with it, so pay attention to the date and class names. Is it a winter or summer vacation? You could also choose different courses based on the season. Of course, if you have more time, then Learning Lab may be more suitable, but for short bursts, Fun Lab is optimal. What about climate? This will depend a lot on where you live. Why does climate matter? Well, where we will test or show the devices will be affected. Are you doing indoor or outdoor activities? That will come up again in the 4th point. But for some schools located in special areas like one we went before, the classrooms are in a surface area because the school is near a hot spring. So what should we add or remove? Well, we should avoid electrical experiments. Then choose a product related to electricity, as it will degrade or become damaged very quickly. What about the schools by the sea?
How can the sea be dangerous if you're not in it?
Sea winds carry a lot of salt, and these will affect metals too. So, consider avoiding those in schools that have extreme weather conditions. However, it will be ideal for wind power experiments, solar energy and water power too. Let's skip water power for now. When it comes to wind and solar power, if the sun is not bright enough, it would be a bit odd to hold a course on solar power, right? If there are no wind today, would you run a course on wind power? You still need an electric fan. It would be a bit strange. So, climate and weather will strongly affect the choice of product and course. The 4th point is, will you be indoor or outdoor? Some of the water experiments really need to be run outside. Otherwise, you'll end up with water all over your classroom. Similarly, solar power projects should be done outside. If you run a solar power experiment and then do it inside with flashlights, it's a bit odd. So, when you choose a product today, give these things some thought. Indoor or outdoor? Finally, do you have specific hardware or software requirements? For example, some schools have a large number of students and may have projectors in the room. There's something cool in Learning Lab you can use there. The 3D assembly steps. Teachers Lost, do you know what it is?
Is it a smart manual web service?
Yes, a smart manual web service. That can really help children to understand the assembly details. Some things may not be clear from the manual, because you can change the viewing angle. The SMWS changes that. On the other hand, if the children have tablets or smart devices, they can also access it. Because the screen can flip like this, it is easy to use, just like a manual, but interactive. So, if we are in school and looking after a large class, and the school hardware is sufficient, we have another reason to consider Learning Lab. It is very well suited to teaching. But if there's not enough equipment, then we might choose a more self-contained course, like Fun Lab. This makes it easier for children to learn. When we teach, we have 3 planning stages: before, during, and after. Before class, we need to understand the content and how to present it. Maybe some classes will not be able to finish the topic in one semester. Say, I teach 2 courses about simple machines this semester. Then teach one about wind power and another about water power. I can design and arrange my courses appropriately. If you have enough packages today, you can start arranging courses immediately. Next is implementation, or the during part. When we implement these courses, as with empiricism and traditionalism that we discussed before, we continually have to remember to ask, are the children having fun and learning during the course? The after part is the review. The feedback includes a worksheet, so that the children can share their challenges and successes. Or they might want to share how they felt about the final model. The review and feedback section is important. Through this 3-stage process, you can improve, and teachers can improve too. In this regard, it's better to make many smaller adjustments as you teach. That way, we don't have to do large course changes later that could be disruptive to the children's learning process and teachers' advanced studies. Later, we will share some teaching experiences. But first, let's divide teaching into some categories to make it easier to think about. We sometimes say that we want to help more students, but we really need our help. You can see from this slide, under teaching, the experience is divided into 2 parts. For example, the campus tour experience and the rural service. This is a project we are currently working on. In some remote places, they may have never played with building blocks, or their teaching style may be more rigid. So for those situations, we use tutor service, or work together with a local group. We can go to those schools to teach and develop scientific concepts by playing games. This is one of the things we usually do. Next, with regard to support and servicing, we also hold some contests. The most famous being WGM. This is actually part of our teaching approach. You know, some children may not be interested if you want to teach them. But if you tell them that there is a fun competition that they can participate in, they will see it differently. Some children get really motivated by this. They may even ask to take courses that support this. Of course, we also have exhibits and displays in various places. For example, it is good to host science exhibitions or brand promotion exhibitions. We will cooperate with different manufacturers. For example, we will show our projects at the Maker Carnival soon. The Maker Carnival will be good exposure for the brand. And people will get to experience how blocks connect to electronic and mechanisms. Things like this can really boost children's imagination and creativity. As people become familiar with these things, they help us share this experience with their students and other users. Workshops are useful too. They are like teacher training or advanced studies. That's the kind of video you are watching now. It is also part of teacher training. In addition to general teacher training, we provide specific training for each package. This kind of training is for summer or winter camps, or for teachers who already have some plans they want to execute. We can customize the seminar accordingly. In order to optimize teaching services, we added a useful interface last year. Do you know what it was, Teacher's Loft?
Was it the Gigglestein mobile?
Right! This is a great way to promote teaching and learning. The goal of the Giggle STEAM mobile is to combine the 4 themes of 4 series of the Giggle Lab: Learning Lab, Fun Lab, Creative Lab, and our Senior Lab. We extract part of each lab and put it in the STEAM mobile. With a vehicle like this, it is possible to reach remote or distant areas. Some of the children in these places have not had exposure to STEAM or the opportunity to develop creative engineering skills. It also boosts their interest in learning because it's fun. We hope to use all the equipment here. No matter how you combine or apply it, there are ways to improve innovation and creativity. The main goal is to encourage scientific and educational activities. Because when we are teaching, many schools already have sufficient resources. But some of these rural areas do not have enough resources, or they have the resources but no teachers to teach. The STEAM mobile fixes this. So whether the problem is scarcity of resources or scarcities of teacher, we can use the STEAM mobile. Doing this, we can create a rich creative environment. For example, when the van opens up, it is full of components. We can do a lot of building block layout in the trunk. It helps to build a space to create and think. In fact, when we use a STEAM mobile, we try to keep good teaching records. For example, here's the picture of a kindergarten we visited. We parked the STEAM mobile outside and moved the shelves into the classroom. After that, the teaching was simple. A school may never buy building blocks or have a dedicated science area. Or maybe there's not enough components to do the experiments they want. So we can bring our own parts in, which promotes the brand, and also brings building and design into the learning process for children, in a way that builds interest. As you know, when the children are interested, they want to learn more. This is a valuable service, and also a good way to increase sales. If you are doing this type of promotion, you can also share your teaching experience across different schools or some agencies and institutions. It produces an overall improvement in experience and sales. It improves both aspects. For the older children, the STEAM mobile can be taken to a campus. The blocks can be put in a classroom, ready for presentation. So we use a wide variety of components, especially basic car components. Then we have to choose an appropriate project based on the objectives. If you are curious about the Giggle STEAM mobile or you want more information, please contact your sales representatives. They can give you all the information you need. Next, let's have a look at the Creativity Quotient certification. The Creativity Quotient certification. Teacher Sloth, do you know what is it for?
Is it a test of a child's ability to build using blocks?
To evaluate a child's ability to build blocks? It seems a bit strange. I'd like to ask Teacher Sloth, have you ever taken any license or test?
License? No, never.
You never learned piano or something like that and then had to take a grading test?
I have a CPR certificate.
Well, actually, the Creativity Quotient certification is a kind of license, although it is not like CPR where you save lives. It is a record of your learning history. If you have a CPR certificate, that means that you have a certain knowledge, you know how to apply it, and can be confident in that. So this Creativity Quotient certification, we call it CQ for short. We hope children will use this to be a visible marker or their learning milestones. To let children see their own learning progress, children rarely make records about what they learned. If a child moved from school A to school B, should a teacher at school B just start from scratch? The student may feel bored learning this way, but the teacher doesn't know exactly what the student learned. Right now, CQ certification is like a child's learning journey and something they can share with pride. They have an idea of how far they have come and the things they learned, what abilities they have. CQ builds milestones in their learning history. The most important thing about CQ certification is that it corresponds to the theory of multiple intelligences. That is, it includes creativity, skills, and problem-solving abilities. For multiple intelligences, it is difficult to evaluate these abilities with just a pen and paper test. Do you have this ability? So, in the CQ certification, we use various ability tests. In addition to written tests, there are also skill tests. We'll talk about those later. But the multiple intelligences mainly require a fair memory, some hands-on experience, problem-solving skills, and a sensitivity to building blocks and creativity. We may need to make some adjustments according to the test environment, like in the previous courses, where we gradually made changes, trying to ascertain whether the children really understood the material. Here, this is from the World Forum for Green Mac Promotion. The official name is Creativity Quotient Certification. In short, we will just call it CQ. There's an academic test and a skill test. The academic test is an online written test. It is scored immediately. After this video, we'll send you a simple web link to take the test. That way, you can try it and see what it's like. Then there's the skills test, which involves building things. This needs judges to evaluate and score the projects. In this case, we will score your models over the internet. Don't worry, I won't be asking you to assemble things right now. First, we need a proctored environment. Once we've fixed that, we can arrange a test for you. That way, everyone can experience how it works. The test difficulty level is aimed at 4th grade elementary school students. So if children are too young, the exam process has to be easier. When they get a bit older, like in high school, for those students, the test will seem relatively easy. But for the application questions, they will need more thought and practice. Let's look at CQ certification topics. First is simple machines. Using set 1261. Do you remember which lab this belongs to?
Fun Lab.
Right, because the main object of Fun Lab is after-school activity clubs or small groups. But the characteristic of the class is first finish school A, then go to school B, or cram school A to cram school B. Because of this, the CQ certification keeps the progress records in order. This is very helpful to help teachers in different units, like when they need to understand the progress stage of each child. So in CQ certification, we usually use Fun Lab as an easy way to test and measure abilities. We can see that it is divided into several topics. The first is simple machines. The second is electricity and solar power. That's one subject. So when you choose this subject, it contains both electricity and solar power. Again, pneumatics and wind power is one set for two topics. We combine them together to test the ability levels. Next is water power and hydraulic pressure and programming design. Then there's World Green Mac. So we have a variety of topics in CQ. We can choose according to the learning order or area of interest. In addition to scientific type experiments, we have activities for the kindergarteners. Here we combine all topics into one big subject. This we call Imagination and Creation. In Imagination and Creation, we can choose topics from the packages below. Let children imitate, then create. Guide children to a passing grade, step by step. Whether children are in kindergarten or elementary school, CQ certification is a good fit and is useful. The CQ certification really helps them see the milestones learned step by step. And it's great for the teachers too. The teachers get to see what needs extra work or improvement. These learning records are digital. so it's easy to check on the internet. There's no need to worry if you lost your certificate or can't remember something. The internet records will be there. So how does the CQ certification work? It's quite simple. The online academic test has 3 levels of difficulty: imitate, follow, and improvise. These levels are separate, so we take an academic test about one subject once, then take from 1 to 3 skills tests about that subject. The time limits vary depending on difficulty of the task. So an easy topic could take up to 20 minutes, but a hard one could have up to 40 minutes. Generally, a complete CQ exam can be completed in about an hour. It doesn't take much time. In this hour, we can quickly understand the child's progress level and also their interest in learning. Let's have a look at some example questions. These can be downloaded from the official World GreenMag website, by the way. Some people may be curious. Why is there a question pool? Don't we want to test creativity? The questions are randomly selected. The question pool system is more convenient and fair for teachers and children as they prepare. This is why we also provide children with knowledge points with the questions. This is to increase children's confidence as they answer the questions or build the models. They can solve the problems easily. If we follow this link to get to the official website, you can see CQ certification in the upper right-hand corner. Choose a question pool to download the academic test questions and the skills test. The academic test questions look like this. A simple layout. This one is for simple machines. Here's an example. This one uses the peg remover. It is labor-saving to pry out the peg. What principle does it apply? Leverage. What is the type of leverage principle?
First-class lever.
So we can prepare for the question pool like this. And there are knowledge points in each section too. So the children know that it is part of simple machines. It can also guide them towards identifying the correct scientific principle. The preparation of the question pool helps children preview and review. This is mentioned in the Teaching and Learning A-Shape method. We usually have a preview and review session for each class. The CQ exam helps children to do this properly. Let's look at it a bit more. The skills test has 3 parts: imitate, follow, and improvise. So the first one is imitation. Imitation is the easiest stage of the skills test. It only takes about 20 to 30 minutes. Children only need to assemble the model in the picture. For example, in this topic, there are several checkpoints. For example, let it float. Make a dynamic structure to release the rubber band. If your device can achieve the goal, then you pass. Instruction steps are included for reference at this stage. This makes imitation relatively easy. As long as the student is careful, then they can pass. The second level, follow, is a bit harder. It only provides a finished picture as guidance. For example, look at this question. It gives you a picture. And there are checkpoints here. Use a bottle and a nozzle to make a car. Then use an air pump to make a pump device. Pump in the air and release it to make the car move forward. During the skills test, there must be at least one proctor on site. It will check the points listed here. In the follow phase, you must be able to build by yourself and make some small adjustments to ensure the device functions correctly. Of course, the most difficult part is the functionality, as there are no pictures to describe that. So students must understand the question. For example, make a model with the shape of an airplane. Using the pneumatics and hydrodynamics kit, make the model move forward and make the front propeller rotate. From these descriptions only, Making a complete model is relatively difficult. It will take longer to build it from scratch. Given what you've done so far, I believe you can do it. Like the wind wheel we made before, it's using the combined A and B approach. If you have learned all these things, then you can easily make an airplane. Then just add the pneumatic and hydrodynamic components. Combining things together makes it your work. The application here is to get children to use the knowledge they have learned and apply it in the CQ exam. Give them an opportunity to show what they can do. After completing the academic and skills tests, we get a certificate like this. This is evidence that can go in a child's learning record. We can enrich the children's learning experiences and expand their horizons. CQ certification really is the milestone. Another important thing to do as we teach is build a loyal fan base that can attract more people to Giggle STEAM projects. And the benefit of CQ certification, if some people in your country are already using Giggle blocks, we can offer CQ certification. Your children can learn more and see their own progress. And it encourages gradual methodical progress. And we'll be able to see their growth over time. So that's CQ certification. Next, we'll share CQ video to help you understand CQ certification and get more information. This ends the final course. But if you have any questions, or your model is not working quite right, or you need some suggestions, please send an email to us. We'll do our very best to help you. Thanks again for joining us on this journey. I'm Teacher Crocodile.
I'm Teacher Sloth.
See you again soon.
Bye.